In this society, if anybody is brother and sister to the other, it's black people and white people. Because there is a tussle there that you cannot get out of. It is deeply ingrained in our relationship to each other in a way that's not with anybody else in this land.
What do you mean?
Because 246 years of slavery, number one. We have built this country. White people know that. Then after slavery, segregation, and lynching, we still have built this country.
Any thoughts?
Well, I think his impassioned speech is true in a lot of cases. Especially here in America, African Americans and white Americans, and really everyone. I hate to, just limit it to those two ethnic groups. Like, we're all bound together here in America. There was a point in my class when I taught at the Young Women's Charter School where we had this question of, is America a melting pot or a salad bowl or something else? And I think whatever side you fall on, the idea is that we are all connected, and the ways in which we connect and continue to build with each other will determine the success of America, whether you're looking at it from a political standpoint, from an educational standpoint. The bottom line is that we are each other's neighbors, we are each other's keepers, and the more we continue to build on that and strengthen our relationships within our communities, within our families, the better things will be for all of us here in this country.
Do you think his point that black people helped build this country is something that has been sort of a buried fact in American discourse?
I think that there was a time when that was not acknowledged, when that was not discussed. Quite obviously, there was literature and text in the early 20th century that did not reflect the contributions of Africans throughout the diaspora. But over time, partially with the civil rights movement and a lot of intellectual movements that have taken place in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, we've started to see, revisions to that history. And we still have to continue to not only include the contributions of African Americans, but African Caribbeans, African Canadians, African peoples throughout the diaspora, throughout the world have made contributions that need to be included in our history text.
Well, I just want to ask you one last thing before I let you go, because one topic we've been talking about this morning was the New York Post cartoon in which these two cops have just shot a chimpanzee on the sidewalk, blood running out of him, and one of the cops is saying, we'll have to find someone to write the next stimulus package. Did you see that cartoon?
No, I did not.
Have you heard of it before this moment?
No, I hadn't, actually. Unfortunately, that kind of political cartooning is not new in this country. It has existed, as far back as politics itself. And, that's just one of the things I think that, in a country where we have the freedom of speech and the freedom of press and the freedom of expression, that's just one side of the coin that we have to deal with. I think, though, in terms of, from a journalistic point of view, it would be great to see an alternate to that, or to see a newspaper present both sides of the issue rather than presenting something so racially charged, especially when you talk about using the imagery of the chimpanzee. I mean, that calls to mind, early 20th century, late 19th century images, stereotypical images of African Americans. So, it's disturbing in that sense, and also in the sense that, whether you agree or disagree with President Obama, he is still the President of the United States, and a certain level of journalistic decorum should be held at all times.
The publisher has now said he's apologized to anyone who might have been offended. He didn't say it was offensive, but if you were offended. And initially the reaction from the Post was, this is a satire. Is there any way to, and I cast in my mind for any way to understand it except as a racist statement, except as the chimp as stand-in for Obama. Is there any way you can think of to understand it other than that?
I think if the intention was to just strictly be a political satire, then different imagery could have been selected. I mean, certainly, if you think of the calaveritas or the calaveras of the Mexican culture, when they kind of poke fun or use satire to talk about their political systems, it's a little different. so it's, having the apology after the image has already been put out there. I mean, part of it is you have to wonder, is some of this to sell papers? Or is it really to get the message out? So, I mean, again, it's a journalistic kind of ethical question that has to be, or discussion that has to be had at that paper.
Well, we've been talking to Sonjanita Moore, who is a educator, resident, and poet in Chicago, and it's really been a pleasure to talk to you this morning.
My pleasure as well, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do black people tan in the summer?
I don't know. Do all black people like fried chicken?
I assume so.
Nah, don't assume. Ask a black person. Vocalo.org presents an all-new forum for you to get the answers to those burning questions that you've always had about black people.
Do black people think we're cool?
When black people get together, do they discuss white people?
Gee, I don't know.
Yeah, y'all get the point. Hit us up, 888-635-1112. All questions remain completely anonymous. You can also send them to askablackperson@ladytwist.com. Come on now, this is your chance to ask all those questions that you've always wanted to know about black people, but were reluctant.
Well, ma'am, I got a question.
Okay.
When are you people going back to Africa?
We're not. Sorry. Now, even though all questions are welcome, y'all, let's try to keep it as unoffensive as possible, please. Now, this is meant to be a forum for debate and to bridge the gap between the races, not to start an argument. 888-635-1112 or ask a black person at ladytwist.com.
Our thanks to Sonjanita Moore, and we're going to continue. Just before this conversation, we were playing No Letting Go by Wayne Wonder, and right now Wayne Wonder's like, I'm saying something. I was in the middle of saying something, and you faded on me. So, here you go, Wayne.